Hi friends, I had quite the day at work today and it really just put me in the mood to yap and put the work day behind me, just kind of chat about books. I didn't want to do something super formal, hence the change in location. We're comfortable on the couch. I just wanted to have fun and chit chat, and lucky for me, I was recently tagged in a tag that I had never heard of, and that is the Reluctant TBR tag. It was created by Chloe Frizzle, and I was tagged by Jenny Fern's Library, and I really loved her video. I thought that it was so fun. And like I said before, I hadn't heard of this tag. I thought that the questions were really interesting, so I wanted to hop on it, and it was a lot of fun because I've talked about this before. I've been making these seasonal TBR videos talking about the books that I want to read for the upcoming season, and I really like doing that because it helps me to have a smaller stack of books on hand to choose from. I have a TBR shelf that is as tall as me, and it can be overwhelming sometimes to try and look at it and figure out what I want to read next. So I like to pull those smaller groups. And I think that a tag like this is really fun because it made me take another look at my bookshelf and just made me think about why some of the books that are on that shelf are still on there, why I haven't picked them up yet. I did a bit of a bookshelf clean out recently. I sold a bunch of books to the used bookstore, and then I had done a bookshelf tour back in the spring, but I think it's always good to just kind of get reacquainted with what I've got to choose from. I feel like since my shelves are in my living room, I see them every single day. I kind of have this blindness and I forget what I have on there. So yeah, this tag made me think about my books a little bit differently, pulled some off the shelf that I haven't thought about in a while, and yeah, let's just get into it. So the first question is, show me a book you want to read, but it was a soft DNF, aka unable to finish it the first time, want to try again? And for this question, I chose All About Love by Bell Hooks. I talked about this in my July wrap up and a little bit in my fall TBR as well. I picked this up right at the end of July and I don't even know, my bookmark is still in it. I got 15 pages in and I was going back and forth on whether I even wanted to mention this in my wrap up because I know that this is a really beloved book and I didn't want people to be like, oh my god, why didn't you finish it? I included it anyway, and I talked about this a little bit in the wrap up, but when you just want a book that you can really relate to, you feel like the author wrote it for you, that is what I was hoping to find with this book, and I just wasn't feeling that connection immediately. So I decided to put it down. I was going through a breakup at the time, and I thought that this might be helpful if I picked it up while I was dealing with that. And I'm sure that it could be, but just for the stage and the journey that I was at the time, it was not fully speaking to me, and I didn't want to push myself to read it and end up disliking it because it wasn't what I was looking for at the time. Like I said, I know this book is really loved by people, so I wanted to give it a fair shot and pick it up when my mood better suited it. I've talked a lot this year about how we always talk about, oh, I'm a mood reader, but I'm really truly realizing how different your experience with a book can be depending on your mood or what you're going through in your life. And it's just been really interesting to revisit certain books and to kind of make decisions like DNFing this, where I can recognize that it's just not the thing for me at that point in time, but I do see value in it and I want to return to it eventually. So yeah. Question number 2 is, show me a book you want to read, but you've read another book by that author and didn't enjoy it. And I chose Will and Testament by Vigdis Hjorth for this question. I recently, I think it was in August, read If Only by Vigdis Hjorth. I ranted about it in my August wrap-up, and I knew that this was the book that I had to choose for this question. This is a book about family, siblings like fighting over their parents' property after their parents pass away. And I am scared to pick this up now. I've had it on my shelf for a really long time. I don't even know where I purchased this or when I purchased it, but vigdis hjorth is a name that I've heard thrown around ever since I got back into reading, and I came across this, decided to buy it, and I'm thinking that Is Mother Dead is the vigdis hjorth book that might work the best for me. That's what I've been recommended by numerous people after sharing my experience with If Only. And my big issue with If Only was just like the repetition and lack of character development or plot. And I'm not someone that needs a super plot heavy book, but I just felt like I was so stuck within the plot of that book, and I am worried that that's what's going to happen with this. I don't know if vigdis hjorth's writing style has changed at all, because If Only was actually published in like 2001 initially, but it was only translated into English this year. This is a more recent publication, so I'm curious to see how she's changed, if this is any better, if she's an author that I'm going to enjoy at all. I don't know, we'll see. Question number 3 is, show me a book you want to read, but it's brand new and you don't know when you'll get around to it. And for this question, I decided to pick my most recent book acquisition. I don't feel any actual like reluctance about this, but it really is just my newest book. I'm not sure when I'm going to read it, and that is Peggy by Rebecca Godfrey with Leslie Jamison. This was actually a book that I won in a Goodreads giveaway. I am the proud winner of 2 Goodreads giveaways now that I've received this, and that's like hilarious to me. Getting the email that's like, you've won, is so shocking, because I'm so used to getting emails that say, oh, you weren't chosen for this one, but try again next time. So thank you to Random House for sending this over. This book is about Peggy Guggenheim. It says a novel. Is she a real person? I just like had to do some Googling. She's a real person, but this is a novel. This is not nonfiction. And the thing that was really intriguing to me about this is that it was started by Rebecca Godfrey, who passed away a couple years ago, and Leslie Jamison actually, like, I guess finished writing it for her. And Leslie is like a standout author for me. I wouldn't say that she's a favorite, but if she keeps doing more stuff like Splinters, I can see her becoming a new favorite. So I'm curious to see how that kind of setup works with the 2 different authors. And I don't know anything about Peggy Guggenheim. That's like a tongue twister. She was an art collector in the early 1900s. And yeah, I just kind of plan to go into this kind of blind whenever I do decide to pick it up. But yes, this is my most recent book. Question number 4 is, show me a book you want to read, but the cover is painfully ugly. And I chose We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver for this question. This is like proof of my crazy relationship with half-price books. I know that there was a movie based off of this book that I believe had Ezra Miller in it, and I know that Ezra Miller has done some questionable things recently, but they were in Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I really loved that movie. So We Need to Talk About Kevin was kind of on my radar because of that, and I ended up purchasing this really not good cover. Let's talk about it. We've got a fake like sticker here. We've got this little thing that is talking about insights, interviews, and more. The photo, like, I don't even know what she's doing. The fake distressing of like the paper texture. Nothing about this cover speaks to me, but I am actually really intrigued by the plot summary on the back of it. It says, and I'm not going to read you the summaries of all of these books, but like the reason why I haven't gotten rid of this is because I end up reading the back cover and I'm like, oh wait, that actually sounds really intriguing. It says, Eva never really wanted to be a mother, and certainly not the mother of the unlovable boy who murdered 7 of his fellow high school students, a cafeteria worker, and a much adored teacher who tried to befriend him, all 2 days before his 16th birthday. Now, 2 years later, it is time for her to come to terms with marriage, career, family, parenthood, and Kevin's horrific rampage in a series of startlingly direct correspondences with her estranged husband, Franklin. Uneasy with the sacrifices and social demotion of motherhood from the start, Eva fears that her alarming dislike for her own son may be responsible for driving him so nihilistically off the rails. I feel like the buzz about the movie whenever it came out was because of the murder in it, but this summary really like focuses in on like motherhood and ambiguity, and those are things that I read about often, and that keeps this on my shelf. Question number 5. Show me a book you want to read, but it's a classic book that might be good for you, but you're not that interested. And that is The Sea by Iris Murdoch. I don't have a lot of like classics on my shelf anymore because I just know myself. I know that they're not what I tend to want to read. So I have gotten rid of quite a few in recent times. But, you know, this is a Penguin Classics, so I thought that it fit the bill for this. Iris Murdoch is one of those authors that I feel like I need to get into. I don't know, she's just so like acclaimed and I see really good things about her work, but I feel like I just haven't found the right book by her to pick up. I know this is like, I mean, it won the Booker Prize. This is like, I think her most famous one. And it's about like a dude, yeah, a playwright composing his memoirs, and he's in this house by the sea, and I don't know if it's because it's about a guy. I'm really never beating the world where only women exist allegations, am I? I don't know if it's just because of that like main character's perspective that I'm not interested in picking this up, or like what it is, but I don't know. I just haven't been struck by this book or any other of Iris Murdoch's books. So if you've read her and you have a recommendation of where to start, I would love to know, because I have a couple other shorter books of hers on my shelf too, but I don't know. I just never feel like, ooh, I need to read this. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could really like it, but we'll see one day. Question number 6 is, show me a book you want to read, but it's humongous and intimidating. And I chose Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee for this question. It's really actually not as humongous as I was thinking it was. There's a lot of like extra content in the back. It's like 480 pages, which isn't the biggest. It's also not the smallest, but for some reason in my mind, I'm like, this is a huge book. And it's a family saga, which I think is another reason why I've kind of been hesitant to pick it up. I just worry about like being able to keep up with all of the characters and all of the connections and things like that. But I've had this for so long. It was a really early half-price books pickup for me. I know Claire really loved it. I've seen really good things about it. I need to just like get over the big book apprehension and get to it eventually. Question number 7 is, show me a book you want to read, but you feel like you need to read it because it's hyped, but you're not excited. And I was really like scouring my shelf for an answer to this question, and the only one that I felt really made sense was Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. I've read The Virgin Suicides and The Marriage Plot by him. I really liked The Virgin Suicides. I didn't love The Marriage Plot, so I've kind of had like a 50-50 experience with Mr. Jeffrey here. And this one is another, I think, kind of like family saga. I don't know. I've seen high praise of this, not necessarily in like the internet circles that I am a part of, but I feel like just in general, like I feel like this has gotten good ratings. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It's an international bestseller according to the back. But once again, I just like haven't been compelled to pick this up. If you've read this book, I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts. Is it worth it? If I didn't like the marriage plot, am I not gonna like this? I don't know. I'm like torn on my thoughts on Jeffrey. Question number 8 is, show me a book you want to read, but you need to be in a specific mood to enjoy it. And I picked Autobiography of Red by Anne Carson for this. This is a novel in verse, and I've seen, once again, so much praise for Anne Carson. I've read her book, The Beauty of the Husband, and I felt like a lot of it really went over my head, and I worry that that's what's going to happen with this. So I feel like I'm going to really need to be in like a studious, like willing to dedicate my time and attention kind of mood to this. I'm not a huge poetry person, and it's not even that I dislike poetry, but I just like don't really read it ever. And the fact that this is like a novel in verse, I'm like, maybe that'll work a little bit better. I read Couplets by Maggie Milner. Is that her name? I think that's her name. I read that last year, and that was also like a novel in poem form, and I really liked that one. I believe that I rated it 5 stars, maybe 4.5. I don't remember off the top of my head. So I could see myself really enjoying this, but I feel like it's not a book that I can just casually pick up at any old time and start reading. I'm gonna have to really be in the like headspace for it. This is like a Greek myth kind of retelling sort of thing, and that also is not typically my vibe. So it's just like something a little bit different. I'm kind of intimidated by it, but I've seen some people, I know Literary Iggy really loved this book. She's the person that comes to mind whenever I think of this book, so I do want to give it a shot. Question number 9 is, show me a book you want to read, but you're on the fence about continuing the series. I am a lit fic, essay collection, memoir kind of girl, so I'm not a huge series reader. The only 2 series that I can think of that I haven't finished are the Neapolitan novels by Elena Ferrante, which I absolutely want to finish those. I absolutely loved The Story of a New Name, which was the second book in the series when I read it back in June or July, and I have the other 2 books. I am absolutely finishing that. The other series that I can think of is The Hunger Games, which I read the main like trilogy, and I have the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes on my shelf. I saw the movie for that with my friends when it came out in the theater, and that's actually the reason why I read the original trilogy. And I do want to read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I needed a break from the series. So the only thing that I could really think of for this question, I don't know if you want to count Simone de Beauvoir's memoirs as a series. She has a set of like 4 of them. I've read the first 2, Memoirs of a Dutiful Daughter and The Prime of Life, and I have the last 2. This one is number 3. I love this cover, Force of Circumstance. This is big. These mass market paperbacks, I mean, this is over 600 pages, and it's a really tiny font. I don't know. I could go either way on it. I feel like it could get interesting. I think that she's gonna start getting like further into her career and her writing in this one. The first one was like more so about her childhood. The second one was about her as like a young adult living during World War II. And yeah, the back of this says that it's about the years of her greatest literary achievements. So maybe I just talked myself back into this, actually. I think it would be really cool to get in her own words kind of the description of writing some of her other books. So I don't know, they're just really big and kind of dry at times, depending on what she's talking about. Question 10 is, show me a book that you want to read, but it's been on your TBR for a very long time. And the book that I chose for this is Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi. I have a really funny story about how I acquired this, actually. My friend Lily got me in our friend group's Secret Santa this past year, and she went on Goodreads, went to my want to read shelf, and scrolled down to the very beginning of it. This is the third book that I added to my want to read shelf on Goodreads, and she bought it for me. I did not have it. I had just seen it online and thought that it sounded really interesting back in 2021, and yeah, it was one of the first books that I added on Goodreads, and I just thought that that was so funny. Like, I was not expecting it whenever I opened up the gift. So I just thought that it was like cool that she went back and found this, because I probably would have like forgotten about it if she hadn't done so. I believe that this is a book about like a fraught mother-daughter relationship, if I'm remembering correctly. I haven't really seen too much about it in recent years, so maybe this will be one that I can kind of put on people's radars if I enjoy it. But yeah, I just thought that that story behind it was really fun, so yeah. Question number 11 is, show me a book you want to read, but it's a genre outside your comfort zone. And I chose Panics by Barbara Molinard for this. This is a short story collection, and I feel like I say it all the time, I'm not a huge short story person. I have tried them here and there, haven't had great experiences, and so I just tend to stick to novels or essay collections. I feel like essay collections and short stories are like similar because they're both short form, but something about like nonfiction just works so much better for me than short stories. I think that I don't have enough time to like get invested in the characters or what's going on with a short story collection, so they just tend to fall flat for me. But this I picked up at White Whale, I think maybe my first time ever going there a couple years ago, and the author of this book was a close friend of Marguerite Duras, and I believe that Barbara, she actually like destroyed most of the writing that she did, and I think that Duras put these stories together as a collection. So there's kind of an interesting backstory there, but this does sound kind of like eerie and weird, and so I don't know if that's gonna speak to me, but I thought that story behind it was really interesting. I really like the cover, and yeah, I don't know. I'd love to get into short stories, but I just really have not found many that I've really enjoyed. Question number 12 is, show me a book you want to read, but despite owning it, you'll likely never read it. And this was another one that I really struggled with. The question said that it can include unhauled books and library loans, but I just wanted to go off of like what I physically have on my shelves, and I chose this book. And it's funny because I think I just mentioned in a recent video that I wanted to start it soon, but I'm not so sure that that's gonna happen, and that is the second, I almost knocked myself out with it. That is The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. This is just massive, and I think that it's going to be quite dense. It is kind of her like, what's the word that I'm looking for? This is Simone's like landmark work on feminism, and I see it referenced a lot in other writing that I've enjoyed, but it's just so big, and the reason why I'm questioning whether or not I'll be able to finish it is because I'm currently reading Of Woman Born by Adrienne Rich, which I feel like is kind of a similar like feminism thing. That one might be a bit more focused on motherhood, but it is more academic in tone, and Claire just commented on my Goodreads update and she said that it's giving textbook, and she's like not wrong. And I just feel like I might struggle with this one as well because of that. Obviously, it's not a book that I would just like sit down and read cover to cover in a short amount of time. I feel like I'd have to read a little bit of it like throughout a long period of time. But yeah, I just don't know how realistic it is for me to like finish this whole entire thing. Oh, there's another one that I could have chosen for that too. Another book that I just realized could have been a great answer for that question is the complete stories of Clarice Lispector. I started this a while ago and I was like, I'm gonna read like a story a day and I'll get through it eventually. I got to page 136. I got through a decent number of stories, but this has become like a coffee table book for me. I do have a plant pot sitting on it on my coffee table. See the short story rant from earlier. I don't know if I'm ever going to fully read this, even though I own it and it's beautiful and I love Clarice Lispector. Question number 13 is, show me a book you want to read, but it's only out of obligation to a book club or a friend's recommendation. I don't have an answer for this one. I am not a ongoing member of any book clubs. I've participated in Sunny's book club with CJ Reads from time to time, but I don't have any book clubs that I like keep up with every single month. And I can't think of like a friend recommendation that I own that I'm not interested in reading. If I wasn't interested in reading it, I probably just would not have purchased it. So I really can't think of an answer for this question. Question number 14 is, show me a book you want to read, but negative reviews have made you less excited. This was another one. I really struggled at the end of this tag to find books that fit. Like, it really did challenge me and make me look at what I have on my shelves. But I chose I Was Told There'd Be Cake by Sloane Crosley for this, simply because Claire read this, she didn't like it, and instead of selling it to Half Price Books, she gave it to me. It is an essay collection, so I have some hopes because of that, but Claire didn't like it. Claire is very deeply in her hater era though, so I might have a better time with this than she did if I know her and her taste. I feel like we have some points in our reading taste that really diverge from each other. Even though we're besties, like there's some stuff that I've absolutely loved that she has not liked. So I feel like if she didn't like this, I might enjoy it. Claire, let me know your thoughts on that. Question number 15, this is the last question, and it is, show me a book you want to read, but it hasn't come out yet. And once again, this one is not like a reluctant answer at all, but I am so excited for Bibliophobia by Sarah Chihaya to come out in, I believe in March 2025. Let's check that out. Okay, February 4th, 2025 from Penguin Random House. Jalen, the Bar in the Bookcase, posted about this on Instagram, and I think that it might be my most anticipated 2025 release. I don't know, I am not great at like keeping up with those things, but it is, how did they describe it? There's an Elif Batuman blurb that says that it is a must for the obsessive reader, so hi, love that. It talks about the author's experience reading The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison and how that became like a life ruiner book for her, and just kind of like changed the way that she saw reading and thought about books. And she goes through a bunch of different books here, talking about her experiences with them, talking about her identity as a Japanese American, and oh, it sounds so interesting. I love books about books, and I am so excited for this one to come out. So that is the tag. This took longer than I expected it to. It does say tag 5 people. I am bad at doing that. If you see this, make this video, do this tag, you're tagged, tag you're it. I would be really interested to see my like booktube friends' answers to these questions, so consider yourself tagged. Let me know your thoughts on these books. I am not treating this as like a typical TBR video. Like, I don't plan on getting to these within the next short while, but it was fun to kind of pull these off my shelf and be reminded of what I have. So yeah, give me your thoughts on them. Let me know if I should prioritize anything in particular from these stacks, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.